Hey JDT, my name's Bernard. I'm one of the JDT team leads. I'm also leading with Jack. So right now I'm just gonna make a quick tutorial on HTML and just go over the slides and get you guys started on the project. So just a little introduction on what HTML is. So essentially HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And the example that I like to use is imagine you're building a house. HTML on your website will be what's called the bricks, the layers, the wood that you have in a house. So things that make the structure the main architect of the house. So imagine having the roof and a bunch of other rooms and built inside the house. So in HTML, what this means is things like having pages, having a bunch of different components, and having a bunch of things like fit together. And one of the main things that make up HTML is called tags. You will see this over and over and over again. So tags is essentially it's a convention, it's a template that allows you to do a bunch of things to a bunch of text or a bunch of objects. In this example, it allowed you to have an opening. It allowed you to create a title, and because the tag itself is called title. There's quite a lot. There's over hundreds and hundreds of different tags, and they all have a unique purpose. What you want to understand is that there are two kinds of tags. One is called a pair tag. It's when you have an opening and a closing tag. So for this example, title is a pair tag because there's a title here, but pay attention to this little slash, that's a closing tag. And what that allows you to do is apply whatever this object does, this little tag, whatever it does, to the thing in between it. So when I say you put that in between the tags, this is what it means. And the other one is called basically a single tag. So a single tag is when you just have an opening tag and that's it, and it's just that thing. And you can put some unique characteristics inside the tag. So for example, image, right? So it would actually stand for IMG. And inside the tag, you can put in like the source of the image, and then you can say equal to my picture dot png, right? And then that's inside the singular tag, but this tag understands that there's an object that's getting passed into it, and knows that image tag has the ability to show an image based off of what the source is. Pay attention to how there's no closing tag, it's just singular. So there's basic syntax in every HTML. The best way to go about this, so let me just open up my VS Code. So if I was to create a new file, let's just save this as, let's put this in my desktop. And let's save this as, no, matter of fact, let's create a folder here. Let's just call it, rename, let's name it JDT. And let's save this file into that folder. So let's go to my desktop, and inside my desktop should be JDT. And inside that JDT, what I want to do is call this maybe index.html. Okay, so I created an HTML page, an HTML file. So in every HTML, there will be a couple of main things in the syntax. So the first is called doc type. It just tells the website, the browser, that this doc type, this document type is an HTML type. Notice how it's just a single tag. And then there's a a pair tag called HTML tag. And in between that, there's a head and a body tag. So inside the head tag, there's gonna be a bunch of things, a bunch of data that you pass in, a bunch of other tags that you pass in. And one of it is the title tag. It gives you a title of your page and a link, which connects it to CSS. we'll go more into what CSS is, but for now, this is how you connect your HTML and your CSS. It's just by link. You tell it is a style sheet, and you reference it based off of what the CSS file is called. In this case, imagine the the file is called style.css, and you can connect it using this tag. So after the head tag, there's a thing called the body tag. That's where most of your code is. So notice how the head tag closes before the body. So imagine like a human body. There's a head, and then there's a body. So it's disconnected. So in this case, there's going to be a bunch of code inside the body tag. This is where we're going to do a bunch of structuring of our code where we create the website. So let me just quickly go over how to get started with this, right? There's a lot to go over in terms of creating an HTML template. So what we do normally is, to make it quick, we just do exclamation point and press enter. And a VS Code takes in charge and basically builds it up for you. You can get rid of meta, it's not really important. The meta tags are not that important for now. And then you can call the title whatever you want. So let's just call it JDT website. And if you get a chance, there's a great extension called Live Server that's hosted by VS Code that you can download or install, and it's free, and essentially it allows you to create your website and host it, and you can see it being saved live. What you need, the couple things you need to make sure, you want to make sure that your autosave is on, and you don't see it now, but if you close your VS Code, open up again, open folder, and open up where you saved the HTML. I saved it in my JDT folder in my desktop. You open it, and you should see on the bottom right, there's this option that says go live. When you press go live, voila, there's your HTML website. And just to show you how cool it is, let's just create an H1 tag, which is header. And you can put in hello world. And it refreshes the page for you, so you can see your code live as it's happening on the website. Okay, so going back to the slides, there's other things that you should be aware of when it comes to tags. There's a thing called ID or class name. It essentially gives you the ability to reference to tags. So imagine you have a bunch of H1 tags, and when you have multiple, you just want to manipulate just one tag. Then you give it an ID, so that way you can target that tag. So you can target the letters, the objects, the information in that tag, and manipulate it however you like. There's a bunch of other unique tags that you should be aware of, like the A tag. A tag allows you to create a link to some text. You can also display pictures. IMG tag, so it's not image tag, it should be IMG. You can make a list with HTML. So you can make a list, either ordered list, like 1, 2, 3, with OL just stands for ordered list, or you can make an unordered list, UL, like bullet points. And like I mentioned, there's a bunch of different head tags. So imagine H1 is the biggest one, all the way up to H6, which is the smallest one. So you can tell the size variation between H1 all the way up to H6. Okay, there's a really special tag that I want you all to be aware of called the div tag. It's really powerful because it allows you to divide your objects or your source code. So imagine, again, you're building a house and you want to put a bunch of rooms together, right? You have a bedroom, you have a bathroom, you have a dining room, you have a common area, and a kitchen. You don't just put them all in one place without any walls. You can't just leave it all in an open space. That's just disgusting, and it's not like a home. So what you want to do is divide your area. So you divide your bathroom and your bedroom to a wall or door. Your dining room and your kitchen could be together, but you might have some sort of like small wall or anything. Of course, you won't have your common area in the bathroom on one, and you would have a wall as well. So that's exactly what a div does. It allows you to separate your headers, your navigation bar, your footer, your main body, your other options, and it just allows you to structure your code through walls and divide them up in a way that is visibly aesthetic for um, for the people that are looking at your website. So this is an example of a div tag, right? So you put your images and your unordered list together separately in their own div, and then you couple them, contain them into one huge div. You can do this for your navigation bar, or you can do this for your body, your main head or your main body. You can have a bunch of paragraphs here. It's a way of structuring your website. It allows you to basically contain them in one area while also like containing them in another larger area as well. So you can have a div inside a div. You can have a div inside of a div inside of a div too. So, but it's just about making things more aesthetic and allows you to also structure your code and your website. So that way, when you are moving things around, when you are moving your items around, when you are navigating your website, it's a lot more smoother and just it's a lot more user friendly. Okay, so what is CSS, right? It's a styling language. So before we get into like the syntax of CSS, imagine CSS in terms of the house as the painting of the house, right? The carpets, the curtains, the sofas, right? All those things that make a place look aesthetic. It's all about aesthetic. It's about the visuals. It's about changing the colors, changing the way things are laid out, and it allows you to bring more, I guess, aesthetic to your HTML. This is the main syntax. So you have the selector that comes from HTML, and you have some sort of property and a value. So a selector could be like an H1 tag, right? And it's all contained inside a squiggly bracket. And whatever you decide to give the property, so let's say background color of the H1, you could say blue. And you also have to have a semicolon at the end. What this does is set the background color blue for H1 tag. So any H1 tag that exists, all the background color would be changed to blue. This is why it's so important to keep in track of your class names as well as your ID, because instead of applying maybe background colors for all your H1, maybe you just want to apply it for a certain text, only one H1, right? You give that H1 a certain ID, and you can target that H1 and get that one a certain value or a certain property, such as the background color being blue. In order to target the ID, you do hashtag. So imagine you have, let me put it right here. So imagine you have an H1 tag. You say ID is equal to my H1, right? And so you type in H1, hi, whatever. Now in your CSS, what you'll do is target that H1 by saying hashtag my H1, and you can basically give a certain background color. That's just an example of a property that you can do out of multiple. So let's just say background color for now, blue. Then CSS knows that it will change the background color to blue only for this H1 tag because of that ID. There's also class name. You can, instead of saying ID, you can also do class. equal to my h1. In this case, you would only reference it, now instead of a hash, you do a period dot my h1 because it's a class instead of an ID. These are examples. So you have also border. You can change the border to none, or other options. Color, you can change it to whatever color you like. The width, perhaps you can change it to some pixel. There's a lot of properties in CSS. The best way to learn is just to apply it and see what happens on the website. So things like color, background image, width, height, font family, font style, font weight. There's so many. But one of the most important ones is margin, borders, and padding. So this is confusing at times, but think of padding as inside the border and margins as outside the border. So matter of fact, the best way to see it is through doing it live. Let me just go ahead and create a CSS. So let me create a CSS file. Let's say index.css, or let's call it style.css. So let's link it. So we say link. Matter of fact, if you just type in link, it knows, and then you can say style.css, and it will connect. So let's h1. Let's change the background color to black. That's not a good color. Let's do gray. As you can see, the background color is now gray, but it's odd. Why is this thing so far away from the very top? That's because its margin is way too much. So let's just say margin. Let's just do pixels. Now you see how the margin is a lot closer to. It's a lot closer. If you change the padding, it would only change the content, the borders inside the borders. So you can change the padding by making it a little wider. So let's just say 20 pixels and see the effects. So inside the border, it gets even wider. It does not change the margins outside of it. If you want to see the border, let's just make the border white. And let's see what happens. Okay, not the best color, blue. It's really hard to see, but if you zoom in, you can see the border is blue. Yeah, it's not the best way to see it. But this is one of the most important things you'll learn on CSS, is being able to manipulate the grid of your website and the layout of your website, things like padding and how things are apart from each other. So we went over some of the tags. Another one of the tags I didn't go over is the button tag. It's also an opening and closing tag, so you can put a bunch of things. You can put a text in between it. Matter of fact, let's just see what happens when we create a button tag. Button, let's put something in between it. Let's say hello here. And you create a button with text hello here in between it. Another one is form. We'll go more in detail about forms in the next couple of weeks, as well as image. So I will be, let's just go ahead and look up an image of Boston University. So BU carrier. Let's go ahead and just find a picture of the BU carrier. Matter of fact, this is not bad. Let's download it. As you can see here, I have a picture of BU in my folder, and I can bring it here. Let's use the image tag. So we can say img, and you can see the source src. It's asking me what kind of picture, what picture do I want, and let's go ahead with the BU picture. So bu.jpg, and here it is. Alt just stands for in case this picture does not render or does not load or we can't find it. What do you want it to show? And let's just say BU picture. but this is just in case your picture doesn't load. It's not necessary for you to have it, but it's just a case that we can't find the pictures and we show the text. Cool. Other common tags like we went over, text align is really important. This is one of our favorite CSS tags. So as you can see, hello world is really far to the left. And so imagine that I want it to be centered. You can say text align center, and voila, it's right here in the middle. One of the coolest thing about CSS is this thing called a star. What that means is apply the property to every single thing in the HTML. So imagine if I change the background color to yellow. This is a terrible color, but here it is. Every single thing is gonna be changed to yellow. But it does not change H1 background color because H1 property has more precedence than the star. So if you give this property something, then this property gets erased and replaced by this value. I don't like the color background color being yellow. But if we say text align center, then everything I write will be centered. Everything will be centered. So I don't even need this anymore because it knows that this is going to be aligning everything to the center. So, cool. All right, here's the challenge. So open up your JDT folder on VS Code, put a picture. You can just go ahead and download a picture, but make sure you put it in the right folder, put it in your JDT folder that you have, that you're opening on VS Code. Create an HTML file, like I did, HTML. So the way to create a file here on VS Code is just this little button here that says new file. When you go ahead and create it, just call it index.html, and also create a CSS. You can call it style.css. And remember to link your HTML and CSS to use this. This little code right here links them together and allows you to manipulate your HTML and your CSS. Install live server. I think that's a really good idea to install it. Again, make sure you have your autosave on. So you go to file and autosave, make sure check mark, and make sure to close it and then reopen the folder. And you should be able to see live here, go live. Go ahead and press that button and it will bring you to a live page. And then go ahead and get started coding. The challenge is to use at least one H tag, so you can use one all the way up to 6. Have some sort of picture, have some links, maybe in order or on the order list, and wrap them into a div tag and style it in CSS. So the challenge is to perhaps create something like this. In this case, you'll notice there's the little H1 tag here. You'll notice another H6 tag here. And you'll notice an image tag. You'll notice an order list. And you'll notice everything is aligned to the center except for this. And the way I did it was to separate things in separate divs. So the button was its own div, the image was its own div, the order list was its own div. So basically the best way to do it is like div, and then I created an order list, and then list item. Li means list item. So it's just an item in the list. So matter of fact, let me say this is my favorite movies. So my favorite movie, number 1, is Inception. List item. Another one of my favorite movies is Moonlight. And then let's go with one more movie, No Country for Old Men. Okay. And this is something you'll notice. This thing right here is so far apart and not line center. And you might be wondering why is that? That was an issue that I came across in the past, and it was I was hoping that you guys get a chance to Google and figure things out. So in this case, let's go ahead and Google why order list not aligning center. Yeah, let's go to Stack Overflow. And somebody's gonna give us an answer here. Let's see what it could be. And we've already tried align text. Let's keep looking. I keep seeing this. Let's see list item position. I keep seeing it. I saw it twice. Let's go ahead and let's try this out. Let's see what happens. Let's go ahead and give this div an ID. Let's call it ID equal to movies. So now we can target it, say hashtag movies, and let's copy and paste the code that we were given. And look at that, it brings everything together. So this is correct. Awesome. Let's also maybe do a border here. Let's say we want to make it 50 pixels and we want to make it blue. Let's see what happens. Nothing happened. What if we just did blue? Nothing happened either. Sometimes it's just the name of the game. CSS is not my thing. You can do border color. Let's do blue. And that doesn't come out either. And that's mainly because it's a div. And divs are not really easy. So another thing you can do is called inspect. So if you right click and press inspect, one thing you'll notice is that this is going to be another one of your best friends. It allows you to see your HTML on the web browser. And if you go ahead and press this little button here on the top left, it allows you to hover and basically see where each thing are created. So this is your div tag called. So if you look at this, so if you look at this, okay, so if you look at the very top, it said div hashtag movie. That is telling me that this whole thing is being contained in one div called movie. And we can see the individual properties of it. So we see that it has a bunch of order lists, and then we can go ahead and see the styles and then see what's going on. So right here, let's see what happens when we do border radius 50 pixels. And then you can be able to see what happens when you change different properties. You know, matter of fact, let's just do background color. This color. So you can cross this out and it will tell you what changes. So you can be able to detect and debug your HTML and CSS by like unchecking and then seeing what happens when things are unchecked. So perhaps if we take off this align text center, what happens when you put it on? What happens when you say div display in blocks? This is just a default value, but let's not go into display for now. Another thing is aligning padding. So we can create another div, maybe before after H1. So we can say another div, and let's just create a bunch of H3 tags. Matter of fact, let's just do A tags. And A tag, like I mentioned, is a bunch of hypertext. It just links. So maybe this is my LinkedIn page. And you'll see here, LinkedIn, right? But of course it goes nowhere because I need to give it a reference. So a reference, we can say https www.linkedin.com /in/bmoulin. That's my LinkedIn. And now if we were to click LinkedIn, it takes you to my LinkedIn page. And then let's go ahead and create another A tag. And let's just do https www.github.com/bmoulin. That is my GitHub page. And then last one, let's just do A tag, and let's do my Instagram, www.instagram.com/bernard.tech. And then there's Instagram. So now you have 3 texts, all taking you to different links. And we can manipulate them, but let's go ahead and give the div an ID. Let's call this ID is equal to social media. Now we can reference it here in hashtag social media. And let's just first let's change the color to black. Now, to refresh, it's still not black. Probably because it's a link. Let's figure out why the A tag doesn't change to black. A tag doesn't change color. Okay. Color of link within H1 tag doesn't change. Probably not why, but let's figure this out. It doesn't seem right, because we already do change the color here. That's already something that we tried. The name of the game of HTML and CSS is just Googling, because a lot of times you just won't remember everything. So you just gotta understand the basis and be able to debug as you go along. Oh, that could be it. Maybe text decoration. We should get rid of it. So maybe if we type in text decoration, none, let's see what happens. Nothing. That's interesting. Perhaps because we're targeting the div instead of the A tag. So perhaps if we said the ID is printed on the A tag, and yeah, there it is. There's the solution. Sometimes you just gotta Google. And what that tells me is that if I were to move these items, it would be best to do it by the div. So if I want to move the items, if I want to say move them to the right, I would do by the div. And the div name that I gave it an ID called links. So links, and let's do padding. The interesting thing about padding is that think about it in opposite direction. So if you want to move it to the right, you're going to do padding left. So what it does is pads it away. So it would pad it against the left. And let's just do 50 pixels for now. And then we'll notice, okay, 50 pixels is not that good. Let's just do 250. You'll notice it pushes it. Another thing you can do instead of pixels, you can do maybe 20%. You can also do percentages. Sometimes I like to use percent. So 90 is not a good idea, 60% maybe, and that's good. Now, the difference between padding on the div and padding on the social media links itself, the A tag, is that when you do padding on the A tags, you'll notice they're padding against each other. So by that, what I mean is, let's just say padding left again, maybe 20 pixels. You'll notice they're padding against each other. But when we did padding on the whole div, patted against the whole website and moved it away. Yeah, and that's about it. And here we are, we met the challenge. So the challenge was to have A1 up to H1 or up to H6. I have an image tag, we have one here, some links, an ordered list, an unordered list, and having them use a div and with CSS. Before I let y'all go, there's one thing I really want y'all to see. This is really cool. Is so button, right? We have button here. Let's add some CSS to it. One of my favorite things about it is, let's just say the background color. Let's just set it to, I'm not very good at choosing colors. Let's just do blue violet. Not the best color, but whatever. One of my favorite things is called cursor, and you can change it to pointer. You can do it for anything. Matter of fact, what it does is change when you're close to the item, it changes the cursor to whatever item you want it to, whatever you want it to be. So in this case, I want it to be a pointer. So notice how the mouse is, and when I get close to it, it changes to a little pointer. You can do it for anything. Matter of fact, let's just do it for the H1 tag. For example, right now, if I hover over it, it just changes into this little highlighter thing. But if I wanted to, I can change the cursor to pointer. And when I'm hovering over it now, look at that. It's like something I'm clicking, but it doesn't do anything. Another thing I want you guys to see was a thing called hover. So button. So you create another element and you say colon and then hover. So what this means is that when you're hovering over a certain button, you want it to do something. So in this case, let's just say to change the background color to, yeah, just to change it to Alice blue. So now when I'm hovering over it, watch this, the color changes. It's just a really cool CSS feature. Yeah, so this button doesn't do anything, of course, but this is it for now. That's your challenge. Thanks so much for watching.